Okay, so continuing along our path, it's time to unbox the Sorceress. And this one I'm quite looking forward to, actually. Let's do it. As normal, first things first, we take a look at the artwork. And as normal, I don't even know why I'm pointing this out still, I'm just making it a point to show off the artwork. It's fantastic. It is. It just is. It always is. I do like this one. I like that it's the Sorceress and she's standing there and her cane, her staff is kind of lighting up and it's kind of showing her a situation where it's kind of opening up a visual portal of such where she can see that He-Man seems to be in trouble and that the invading forces are nearing the castle. That's very much what this kind of gives me. That's what it seems like. And I like it. So let's open her and get my first impressions, and don't be surprised. I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there now. I think the Sorceress is one of the best designs in all of Mutu Masters. It's so good. Okay, so taking her out. First thing we get is this card. Now, if I remember right, I've already explained this. Anything that's grayed out, that's the parts that are interchangeable on the figure. So that's going to be her head, her arms, her pelvis, and her boots. Those things are interchangeable. So if you want a different character to wear blue boots, this is where you kit bash. This is exactly what this is for. Or if you run into an issue where the arm breaks or something of that nature, and you happen to get a new figure that can replace that idea, there it is. We had a little bit of an issue opening this one. A little bit of glue was caught on the bottom of the book. Not a bad thing this time. There is a slight little tear, but it's not big enough for me to make any big deal about. And this is a book that I don't think I have. I'm pretty sure I don't have this one as I'm looking through it right now, and that's really cool. I don't know what that thing is, but there's like a stone lion thing. That's cool. I don't know what's going on here. I just know that it's cool, and I'll for sure sit down and I'll read this and I'll get an idea of it and whatnot. All of these have been fairly cool. All of these have been fairly cool. But also when you're just getting into something like this and everything's so big and so expansive and so new, almost everything about something like this is cool. So I'm glad that this comic was not damaged, because that would have honestly irritated me. And it's also something to call out on the old style packaging. The glue at the bottom, this is not the first time that's happened. In fact, if you remember right, there was an episode a while back where I opened one and the same thing happened. The glue across the bottom had actually gotten onto the book and I had to tear the back of the book in order to get it off the glue. This time, it was just a very small, unnoticeable, fabric-y-esque tear that happened on the very edge, and it's really not enough for me to complain about. So that's a good thing, I guess. First impression, it's fantastic. I mean, it is. It is. The staff, once again, good. This is much better this time. It's not so tight that it's all messed up. I actually think that if I'm not mistaken, these figures, the females, are just a little bit shorter than the guys. That means the staff may actually be the kind of staff I like, where she can hold it and it can touch the ground and she can stand there. That's the way all the staffs should be. I'm telling you, that's the way I feel. The Havoc staff, he should be able to touch it to the ground while he's standing. The staves should be about as big as a character. That's the way I feel about staves. Like big, cool wand staves and whatnot. I really like this coloring on the wings. I think that is absolutely fantastic. I like that orange that then goes down into that blue. That's really sharp. And for the kind of mild coloring that we get on these figures, I definitely have to call it out when something really stands out, because they don't overly color these figures. They're very much meant to be an interpretation of the classic line, and the classic line did not have coloring that was great. They didn't. They just didn't. Look at all the different He-Mans that came out that, like, their bracelet things, their gauntlet-esque bracelet things, were the same color as their skin. That's because they didn't care enough to color it. I don't even know what I would say was that they didn't care. It's that was the kind of attention that was paid. And you got to admit that toys today get a lot more articulation and a lot more detail work than toys back then. The color separation is a lot sharper on newer toys than classic toys. That's just the way it is. So it's cool to see them go out of their way and add some of that color to these older toys while still keeping to the idea that they look classic. This still looks classic, but I will point out that her face is fantastic. And I mean like way better than I was expecting. I even think there's a little bit of freckle work on her, and maybe I just got a bad paint job, but if that's true, I'm going to go with it because it looks great. And the eyes look wonderful, and I like the little gold, and I like the eagle. Everything about it so far on first glance is fantastic. So let's take her out of here, let's move the camera, and let's take a closer look. And here she is. Real good, actually. Like, really good. I'm legit impressed. I think that it's a damn fine sculpt here. I think that it looks every bit as classic as it needs to look while just looking new enough. If I have a complaint, it's here. The staff probably could have used a little more coloring, in all honesty. I wouldn't have minded a little blue or some sort of effect or something of that nature. I would have been very happy with that. But I do got to admit that I like the wings a lot. I like the little dress part a lot, but maybe that's another complaint as well. I would have preferred maybe a skirt of some sort, like the feather skirt that she kind of wears. But I do like the effect down here on the boots. I think that those do kind of look like furred boots, and that's really cool. And if we turn her sideways here, you can see that the bird eye actually comes out and looks really solid. And the back here, they do a cool effect here for an older figure, or a figure that's designed to be as if it was older. This is actually a really good design. One, the bird wings are very nicely done. I love this color fade. I like this orange that goes down into this blue. That is so fantastic. But it's not done. The cowl here on her head actually hides the little parts right here. So just like her knee, that little part that goes over the front of her knee, which I've heard a lot of people complain about this, and I get the idea. It's less noticeable on the guys than it is on the girls, but the girls are sleeker, so you notice it. They have these little knee things that come down that kind of form her knee, and when she's just standing there, it looks great. When she starts to bend, it looks a little bit weird because there's like this little knee thing that comes out, and I get that. But at the same time, they do another little thing here to hide an articulation point, which is right here. The cowl actually comes down and covers this little metal thing in there. In fact, can you see those? There's these two little metal things in there that allow her wings to go down and up. And when her wings are down, you can actually do something like you can have her standing there, and you can have with the deal. And this is exactly what I was talking about. The staff should go all the way down and it should touch the ground. That's perfect. That's exactly right. The staff should go all the way down and it should touch the ground. 100% on board with that idea. I think that looks fantastic. I think she looks great like this. I've always really liked her color. I've always really liked her design. I just really love the Sorceress. She is one of my all-time favorite designs in all of Motu that I have ever seen. All of it. All of it. I can't get over how great she really looks, and I'm legit excited to have one of these finally that I can add to the shelf. And oh man, I cannot wait for a Sorceress to be released in the Masterverse, because the Masterverse figures, the level of articulation and detail that they put into a figure that only costs about $25, oh, so good. So good. This overall, this entire thing right here is really good. Now, I've mentioned a couple of the things that I'm not happy with. One thing that I'm letting go, but it is an issue. Mine, the face came with a little problem. Let me put her staff down here. The face, if I can get this to focus in, there's a little discoloration under her cheeks, which at first I thought were freckles. I thought they were there on purpose, but they're not. It is actually a mess up in the paint job, but it's so minor. Personally, for me, it's so minor that I actually don't think I care. And we could do things like we could put one wing up, something like that, where she has her staff and she has her one wing up and she's kind of charging an attack or something like that, and she's saying she's very blatantly standing at on the jawbridge, and very much Skeletor, look, don't test me. Like, I'll end you. Like, I also love the idea that, you know what? That's all for this. Let's talk for a minute. So let's talk a little bit, because yes, the Sorceress is one of my favorite concepts, one of my favorite things in all of Motu. I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. I love her design. I love the way she looks. I love the power behind her. I love the idea that inside of Castle Grayskull, she is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, mortal character in the show. The only time that Skeletor ever seems to actually be able to get a one-up on her is if he surprises her, or if she has to whittle her power for some other purpose, or if he has a relic that allows him to get the one-up on her. If he's simply, because he's considered one of the most dangerous things on their planet, but I told you before, because of the way that you kind of pick your playstyle and you get to pick some of the things that we all get to create our own headcanon when we talk about this universe. And for me, from what I've seen and what I purposely like, I don't hate the idea of Keldor being Skeletor. But I also like the idea that Skeletor is dangerous because he comes from a different universe where a lot of entities like him have that kind of power. And in Eternia, the Sorceress is, bar none, the strongest thing that there is inside of the walls of Castle Grayskull. And even he, being from another universe with another power, with another hardcore power that is unimaginable in the span of Eternia. In fact, it was such a big deal. He had so much power that the Sorceress actually finally granted the Sword of He to a new protector and said, speak the words by the power of Grayskull and call upon the power so that you can defend. Like that idea right there, she needed a protector. She needed a guardian because it was going to get bad. And like, then he goes out there and he's the strongest man in the universe. And yeah, time and time again, because of the way the show was, he often made a joke of Skeletor. But Skeletor had a couple of times, even in that old 80s show, where he bested He-Man because Skeletor was smart enough. He was already powerful enough to be a threat. Where at the same time, he would find relics and things like that that would kind of alter his power or give him more power and allow him to do things, or he would scheme his way around problems he was experiencing. I love the fact that early, because you're talking in the 80s, and when I think back to things I grew up with, the women characters were almost always the weaker characters. Always. And even if I preferred the women characters, there was Xena and there was Hercules, and like, she started as a bad guy, and Hercules basically, he dogged her twice. He beat her twice, if I remember right. Maybe I'm thinking differently. I think she may have appeared. I think Lucy appeared as two different characters in that. But regardless, it's often normal that the women characters are the weaker characters. And then here comes Motu, and they flip it on its head, and they're like, inside of Castle Grayskull, there is absolutely nothing that can stand up to the power of the Sorceress. She is it. She is the guardian. She is the keeper of the power in general. She is the mighty. Like, I love that idea. I love that there's this dangerous, godly, mortal being that lives within the walls of Castle Grayskull. And I also like, one of my only problems, if I'm going to call something out when it comes to the new Revelation, I personally believe that the Sorceress should be weaker, or that her powers should fade quickly should she leave the confines of the walls. Because you don't want this kind of character, this kind of power to just roam free, because you end up with a Phoenix type of idea, where now you have the strongest character in the universe that's literally just a part of your team, and what do you have to worry about? There's very few stories you can tell without getting creative or finding a way to ignore their powers. And I really hope they don't do that, because I want the sorceress to stay at the peak of power. But that's also the reason that you put her in command of all the power, and she ushers out that power, and she's in control of it, and she's very wise, and she has the knowledge of the universe, and she is strongest inside the walls of Castle Grayskull. I really want that to continue. And I worry that they may have changed something drastic at the end of Revelation, but I don't know. I'm waiting to see Chapter 3. Who knows? Maybe they'll find a way to dwarf her power, or maybe she will discover that the longer she stays away from Castle Grayskull, which I'd be fine with this, the longer she stays away from Castle Grayskull, the more her power drains, and that it wasn't always that the sorceress couldn't leave the walls, it's that she had a lot of responsibilities, and she couldn't just go out there and find herself in a situation she couldn't handle. But the sorceress did often take outs where she would leave the castle, and she would wander. She would see Eternia. She would experience life. One of the times that she did that, she actually met a warrior who was damaged, who turned out to be Fisto. He didn't know this, if I remember right. He's damaged at the time. She falls in love with him, and she actually has a kid, which is Tila. And then she calls Man-at-Arms to the castle, and she's like, this is not something that I can personally deal with. You have to deal with this. Now, it looks like Revelation may have changed that. It may have rewrote that concept and said that he is the father, and maybe that's the idea. But I do like the idea that Man-at-Arms was a man of honor. He was requested directly by the sorceress, please raise my child. I can't do it. I want nothing but the best for her. I know you can give her that. And I know that someday she will have to take my burden. And I would prefer, I don't know where the father is. For whatever reason, maybe she couldn't locate him. Maybe when he got his memory back, or when he took the road, when he healed, he was then Fisto and he grew the beard, and she didn't recognize who he was. She's still human for all the information and all the power she has. So maybe she just didn't realize it. It's one of those weird comic book things that we just kind of got to go, okay. And who knows, maybe there's an in-universe explanation. But I feel like she asked a favor of a noble man. And he said, yes, I'll do it. I'll watch the kid, because why wouldn't I? She needs a home, and she needs a chance at a real life. And yes, I agree, if she's to take your burden, she will need training. So, he takes her, she grows up, and she has all the love of a father. Tila is still very much bound to Man-at-Arms. Years later, it won't matter that Man-at-Arms is not her natural father, her biological father. What matters is what he did, and what she sees, and what she feels. That is her adoptive father. That is her real father, as far as she's concerned. And I love that. And now this episode is way more about me just talking about Masters of the Universe. So hey, we've unlocked the sorceress, and now you have a little bit of insight just how much I can't even hold the episode together, because I literally love the sorceress idea and design so much that just unboxing her put me on like a 10-minute random discussion about the sorceress and her family and Fisto, and this is great. This is one of the best designs in all of fantasy ever. I literally love this to death. She's so good. I think I was pointing over there. That's not who I'm talking about. He's great, but this right here, all day, all night, so wonderful. We did it. We did it. That's every single Origins figure that I said that I would unbox, that I said that I would talk about right there. Bam! And you know what that means? It means that in the next unboxing episode, it's castle time, baby. And guess what? That means another sorceress, because a special figure comes with the castle, and it's a sorceress, and that is awesome. Two sorceress. It's awesome. What can I say? I'm gonna get out of here.
have spoken. Take what you will from it.